Hey, thanks for coming back to the channel. In this video, we're getting back to the Live Sound Basics series. If you haven't been following along, be sure to check out the playlist for the rest of the videos in this series where we've talked about signal flow, physical inputs, head amps, high-pass filters, channel EQ, aux sends, post-fade aux sends, input delay, mix buses, and a few other things. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at VCAs, and you may be familiar with using DCAs in modern digital mixing consoles, but as this is a basic series, we're going to start off with the fundamentals of analog VCAs, or voltage controlled amplifiers. Now, VCAs can be found on larger analog consoles for sure, and I would love to have an old Midas Heritage console in the shop here to demo this for you, maybe someday, but we can get a much better look of what's actually going on inside a VCA by using these VCA modules by my friends over at Radio Design Labs. Thanks to Doug at Radio Design Labs for sending over this new VCA 3 stick-on module here, along with the power supply for us to use and the controller. I had previously purchased this ST VCA 1 module. It's an older module on eBay in order to make this video, and Doug saw my post. I posted a little snap of it when it arrived on Instagram, and Doug saw that and reached out and wanted to help, so thanks to them for the support. Just to be clear, this is not a paid video. The gear loaned to the channel for these types of videos is returned after each project, unless it's kept for like further testing or to compare to future products. We cannot and don't pay the bills with free gear here, so if we ever do a paid piece, it will be very clearly labeled. A basic implementation of a VCA is using a remote control to raise or lower a single gain stage. In this case, it could be a microphone that needs a preamplifier or an input like an iPad that just needs a volume control prior to being amplified by a PA system. And this is typically something you would see in like a restaurant or a school or other public space, government buildings, things like that. So maybe we need a volume control in a place that's not where all the audio equipment is located. You see this a lot in storefronts even, where they might have background music going on, and then they might want a remote control for that somewhere else in the shop other than in the AV rack in the closet. Obviously, you don't want to route your audio all the way from the source out to the remote control to adjust that volume and then back, because you would risk picking up things like noise over those long distances and, of course, signal loss. So that's where VCAs come in. A VCA lets us use a control voltage connected along with the ground conductor and the control conductor. In this case, we're using 10 volts, and that's supplied by the ST VCA 3, and I'll show you that right here, hopefully. Yeah, so you can see this in the shot, and so we've got 10 volts from the power supply, the wall power supply. We are looking at 24 volts coming into the unit, so this is operating 24 volts, and then it is outputting 10 volts, and that 10 volts is going down the line here to our remote control. Again, we can see our 10 volts there. And then if we meter the control return line here, you can see just about 0 all the way down. And then as I start to bring this up, you can see the control voltage is increasing all the way to the full 10 volts. So the remote control is simply just a high-quality 10,000 ohm potentiometer. They have connected 10 volts and ground to the two outer pins of the potentiometer and the control conductor to the center pin or the wiper, and that just varies the resistance as you sweep that wiper along the travel of the resistive material. There's no audio signal passing through the remote control, and that means it won't get scratchy sounding as it ages or if it isn't used for a long period of time, because there's no audio passing through this. It's simply varying the resistance as you adjust that potentiometer, returning a reference voltage to the amplifier circuit, which in turn sets the level. Now, this is the D Series Rlc 10K, so this is the most basic, and it is literally just a really high quality 10K potentiometer in here, very simple. But they also make units that have LED reference lights along with a optical encoder version that allows you to have up to 10 units working in a primary-secondary configuration if you need to have control at multiple points throughout a facility. So that's very handy as well. So with these very basic and fundamental tools, we can start to imagine the potential for an out-of-circuit remote control in an audio path. Access from multiple controllers and control groups without reprocessing the audio signal are all very interesting possibilities. Fast forward to our modern digital mixing consoles, and we might be more familiar with DCA controls. Functionally the same to us, with the acronym changing to represent digitally controlled amplifier. So where would you use a DCA? Wouldn't a subgroup do the same job? Let's take a look at that. So imagine you have a drum kit that you process through a stereo subgroup. For the sake of keeping things simple, when you route those channels at the channel level to something like a post-fade ascend to an effects unit, what happens when you pull down the whole kit for a specific song? If you go to the subgroup and you back off the drum group, mission accomplished. But what about those effects? What you've done here is you've pulled down the group that those channels are feeding, lowering the volume of the drums in your mix, sure, but the individual channels have stayed the same. So their post-fade sends to those effects have also stayed the same, and that's less than ideal. A DCA is a fantastic way to effectively grab a bunch of channels and move them at the same time. You can see how that happens here on the PreSonus using a DCA to control a number of microphones. This may seem like a special case with something like effects, but it's a tool that you're going to find yourself wanting to use more and more on any gig where you're managing multiple zones or post-fade mixes along with your main mix. If you've got record feeds, if you've got post-fade zone feeds, press feeds, any number of other destinations that may need to track along with your mix dynamically, DCAs are a good way to go. They also make managing your stage and show much easier with that added layer of organization and control over all of your sources. If you combine DCAs with your mute groups and you can actually remember where you've assigned everything, you will be one seriously effective operator behind any console. Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave your questions and comments down below.